Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Tiger Talk this week. My name is Lindsay Bray, and I'm the Senior Coordinator for Parent and Family Services here at the University of Memphis. So today we have Cortez Washington, our Associate Director of Career and Employment Services, along with Eli Hatcher, our Employer Outreach Specialist, here to talk to you about how your student can best prepare themselves for their future career and the services that the office has available. Cortez and Eli, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Hey. So kind of as we get started, Cortez, I'll let you get started. Can you tell us a little bit about career services and when a student should really start working with your office?
Well, again, thanks for having us, Lindsay. It's a pleasure to speak to everybody and to inform everyone, about these services of the Career Services Office at the University of Memphis. If you look at statistics and research around the company, Career Services is one of the most underutilized offices on campus. But when you ask yourself the question, why do most students attend college? It's either for educational reasons, obviously, but most importantly, it's for employment reasons. So do the math on how that happens. So is it the goal of Career Services to provide more marketing, getting in the student's face to, really tell the students what we're offering, as well as the parents, and have that, feedback and that buy-in from instructors to make an impact? Or is it the responsibility of the student to seek out Career Services because this is your future, this is your destiny? My opinion, it's both. We are both responsible, So in regards to Career Services and the things that we offer, it starts with resumes. It starts with communication. It starts with transferable skill building. It starts with professional development, student organizations, and what you guys get out of those student organizations, and understanding why you are a part of those student organizations, and not just doing activities just to do them, but to understand the why. Cover letters, if you're interested in graduate school, some of you guys may be interested in internships, and, in order to gain an internship, you're going to have to interview. Well, we can also help you with mock interviews, teach you how to dress, and be prepared for success. So Career Services is such a broad but yet fun field, and it offers so many things that could help students be prepared. Now, the follow-up question was, when should students become involved? I personally think you should become involved as soon as you're a freshman, all the way out throughout your journey as of being a college student. So Career Services is not just a one-time stop. It's on you guys, and it's on us as well as a department to educate you guys continually. Just like you're becoming educated, academically, you have to have that same energy and that same passion for, professional development, because that's primarily the reason why you are attending college.
I think that's a fabulous point. It's something that students should start with early and often as well to build up that network. So Eli, can you tell us a little bit about what your role is in the office and how that can help our students as well?
Yes, of course. So like you said, I'm Eli Hatcher, and my job title is Employer Outreach Specialist. So basically, boiling it down to whenever employers come to campus, want to recruit our students, will work with the students. I am the one who greets them, kind of points them in the right direction. If we have an employer who's looking for engineers, I make sure they don't go over to the education department, but instead make sure they're headed over to the engineering or the College of Engineering. So that's kind of my job, is to help work with the employers, help make sure that we have a bunch of widely available jobs on campus. Here in a little bit, I'll show you our HandShake platform, where we have well over 5,000 jobs posted locally and across the country available for our students. So I'm kind of working with all that to make sure everything, make sure the students do have the opportunities available for them.
Great. So can you talk a little bit about where a student might want to get started? So say they've decided on a major, or they're kind of thinking about a major. Where's the best place for them to start? Do they call your office? How should they do that?
Yeah, so there's a few places to get started. If you're completely clueless, we actually have a an assessment that students can take called PathwayU, which Cortez is very instrumental in implementing and running. And so, it'll take your personality, your skills, your likes and dislikes, and helps boil it down to a list of potential majors that you might be interested in, and kind of shows you the pathway to get to those professions once it comes time to graduate. So PathwayU is, like I said, if you really don't know, PathwayU is a good place to start. We also have the opportunity to set up one-on-one meetings with our career specialists. And the career specialist, one of the things they can do is help walk you through different career paths and job search tips and strategies to, help you get to the next steps, next levels.
And I'd like to add to that, to those great points that Eli, mentioned. The first place to start, and Lindsay, I believe you mentioned it, is with your advisor. Figure out the why that you're meeting with your advisor. Figure out the why in regards to why are you selecting a major. Do that work before you go into that office, because why? You want to be able to use different resources to see what is the demand looking like around the time you are scheduled to graduate in that particular field. Don't just pick a degree just because it may be easy or it correlates with your sports schedule or whatever. Like, look at the demand of careers that are out there. And, some students have a tough time of figuring out, hey, I'm not passionate about this, though I know it, will make a significant amount of money. For me, it's not about the money. It's about the purpose and me helping students to achieve their goals. So everyone is individual, and you have to do that work as far as figuring out the why. So hopefully that makes sense.
I think it does. I think that's a really wonderful point, because I think that sometimes our parents think, a major equals this career. And sometimes if that's not a great fit for them, that's a hard switch for a student sometimes. So I think that's a really wonderful point to understanding that why and what it means to you going forward. And I think that's also a great point too, is that you make is, major, really look at the landscape of what careers are going to be out there and what might be in demand moving forward too. Because majors can have such different, as I'm sure y'all know more than I do, you can do a lot of different things with a lot of different majors.
Yes, you can.
So I know we all have very different backgrounds and have come to our current careers in very different places. So yeah, different majors can do different things for us, definitely. So you mentioned a little bit, Cortez, about those extracurricular activities that many of our students do, and sometimes our parents don't always understand how those play into a future career. Can you talk a little bit about how you've seen students utilize those on their resume or to get ready for a future career?
Yes, I can. So for example, let's talk about student organizations and student leadership. It's an opportunity for students to not only collaborate, communicate, and spend time with people from, various backgrounds, cultures, beliefs, etc. But that's a skill, because you are in the workforce. That's what, with the landscape of how things are looking, chances are you're going to work with people that are different from you, come from different backgrounds. So that's actually a skill that you're developing right here on our campus. Now let's look at titles. Some students just, create a resume or cover letter and they'll put, let's say, chapter president, and they'll stop right there, right? Now, when an employer looks at that information, that's all that they're seeing is chapter president, but it's your job to sail and go much more into detail about what you did as a chapter president. Did you do fundraising, right? Did you manage a group of people? Which class projects did you work on with your organization? What type of community involvement or activities did you do, or did you assign or develop as the president? So once you finish, detailing all of those different activities, it actually looks like a job and it's experience versus just stopping at that title.
That's a wonderful point. So Eli, since you work directly with our employers, can you talk a little bit about the skills and characteristics that our employers are looking for right now when you've talked to them?
Yeah, so there's a wide variety of things that they look for. And a lot of it depends on the major. There's all the hard skills that you learn in the classroom, whether, there's the professional stuff like accounting or engineering. But then there's also what, people like to call the soft skills. Or on our campus, we call the competencies. We actually have a list of competencies listed out, ranging from everything from leadership and communication to digital technology to flexibility, and everything in between. There's about 6 of them that we really focused on. And one neat thing that we have done is we worked closely with student leadership and involvement. So these different organizations and different events, we also have listed these competencies or soft skills that the students will pick up by attending these events, by attending and participating in these organizations. So that way they know exactly what they should be getting out of these and how they'll be able to apply for their future careers.
So I know with you working with employers, do you work directly with our career fairs that we have each semester?
Yes. So I actually this past semester I was the one who was basically over it because everything moved to being online. So through our career services platform, HandShake, I'll show you that in a little bit, like I said, but it's where we actually hosted the career fair. This semester we had 47 different employers available, range from everything from Shelby County schools to international paper to a couple of ones that are way outside town, but they decided to give us a try and try to recruit some students to move to their city. So there's a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different majors. It's the all majors career fair was the one that our office puts on specifically, but there's also a lot of different industry and major specific ones from STEM to education to business to health sciences, which one we had just yesterday, actually.
And so Cortez, I know that internships are a big part of students preparing to go into their chosen career. Can you talk a little bit about how students might go about getting an internship and what kind of maybe course credit they can get or how that works for our students and the value of that?
Yes, I can. And all of those options are available to students. Like you mentioned, the course credit, meaning when you are doing an internship off campus or on campus, remote, or however it's situated, you can receive an actual course credit, as far as a grade in your class. So that's one option that's available. Me personally, I like to promote all internships because of the experience factor. Now, don't take that and run with it, because you also have to do your research and make sure that companies aren't abusing or trying to get free labor, because you want to be, paid and you want to be acknowledged for your time. But at the same time, if it's a reputable company and if they're having financial strain or difficulties, but just having a company with a reputable name on your resume as far as that kind of experience could be worth it if you could do about 10 to 15, maybe 20 hours a week. But keep in mind, the key factor is graduating college on time and also having a certain GPA. So you don't want to get caught up in the money, whether it's paid or not, to the fact to where that affects your grades negatively. So hopefully that answers your question in regards to internships and the importance thereof.
I'd like to add my previous role. I was in admissions. So at college fairs in high schools, I was the guy on the other side of the table, and we'd always push our internships. We were ranked top 10 in the country in internships. The reason internships are most important is because when you go to apply for a job once you graduate, it's, you can't just simply put on your resume, I graduated 4 years with 3.5. Well, congratulations. So did 500 other applicants for the exact same job. You'll get thrown to the bottom of the stack because that doesn't tell them anything. But instead, if you can put on a resume, I graduated 4 years, 3.5 plus, I worked for this company, this company, this company in the industry that you were in. Here's some great contacts from those businesses. They'll be able to tell you that I'm a good worker, that I've actually had the experience to be able to hit the ground running. And they actually say, I think the last statistic shows, somewhere well over 50% of the students who have internships get full-time offers by the time they graduate from the companies they internshiped with. Because that's just a great opportunity to go ahead and get your foot in the door, and the companies love it because it cuts down on the training time when you first start. And it's a great recruiting pipeline for them.
And also to add to that, that's a great point, Eli. But when you look at the benefits of the internship, understand the different forms of internships. You also have group projects. You also have externships, which can also count as experience. And going back to the point of making those connections, you go to an internship, you do a good job, and let's just say things don't work out. Okay, well, at least you gained a professional reference versus a peer reference, which makes a lot of difference to have a professional reference over a peer reference that you can use from that internship. Again, we're talking about the experience that you're going to be able to put on your resume as well, which is going to be beneficial to you.
I think that's a good point too about internships and creating your network. That's always very important, and we always recommend parents encourage our students to do. But also too, I think internships are also a great way to figure out, like, maybe this profession isn't for you either. Maybe you try something out and it's just not a great fit for it. You thought it would be the best thing in the world, and it turns out not to be quite what you thought it would be. And so I think both of those are great ways to do it without, taking on a full-time job and feeling like you're giving up something at that point as well. So internships are a fabulous way to kind of get your feet wet and really see what a job really can be at the end of the day as well. I'm sure some of us would like to go back and do that with some of our jobs that we've had in the past. So we talked a little bit about, for a student who goes, 4-year degree, wants to get a job right after. What does your office offer in terms of helping students who already kind of know they want to go to maybe graduate school, get their master's, or professional school, they want to be a lawyer or doctor or something like that? What is offered from your office on that end? And either one of you can answer that on that one.
So one of the opportunities we have with like I mentioned earlier, working with your career specialist, which, let me back up a little bit. A career specialist our office is split up in different talent communities, which is clusters of majors that have similar career paths. We have health and wellness, which includes nursing to hospital administration. Well, those two things are in different colleges, but they're still similar career paths, for instance. Or we have, education, we have STEM. So you'll work with your career specialists who are over each of these talent communities. And one of the opportunities for the sessions that we have with them is graduate school planning. And so, a lot of applying to grad school is similar, not quite the same, but similar to applying to a job. So you still have to submit resumes. A lot of times you have to do cover letters. It depends on the school. You might have to sit down and do an interview with them. And so we can sit down and do all those different things with you. We can help point you to the direction of some of the more reputable schools as far as these graduate schools go, and some different opportunities you might have for that, and kind of help you work through the planning process for that. We won't do all the work for you. That's not our job. Our job is to give you the skills and give you the knowledge. That way you can help yourself.
That's great. So that's a great point for our students who are thinking about that as a next step for them as well. So we did have a question from our audience out there. There was a question about kind of going back a little bit on creating that network. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe a student can leverage their professors and the admin staff here at the university as well to kind of build those relationships for future careers or getting those skills that they need as well?
Yes, I can talk about that. And I'm going to add something else to that question as well. But as far as with the instructors, you have to gain the trust of the instructors. You have to do exactly what you're saying you're going to do, and you have to be accountable. All of the things that you would, display at a company or an organization. You're going to have to display those things in the classroom. It's the same mentality. So, those people who are, mediocre, just getting by, arriving to class, even on Zoom late, those things are going to carry over into your professional career as well. It's the same mentality. So why not start training yourself now on how to be an effective professional in whatever you choose to do? Now, adding more to the importance of networking, we all know that it's a lot about who you know. So you have a lot of people that have graduated from the University of Memphis who are itching to bring in more people like yourself who are considered alumni, right? So you want to reach out on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever social networks that you're a part of in a professional manner to make those connections. Now, a point that I like to stress with all of my students, before you're networking and reaching out to different people for either advice or a position, you want to make sure that your social network is professional and it's not going to have anything on it that's going to eventually hurt you. We have seen countless accounts around the country of people who are posting things 5 years ago that now is coming back to bite them and they lose their positions. I personally don't agree with that. I think I practice more forgiveness and understanding of the times, but that's personal. So I would say to you is to make sure that your, LinkedIn, your Facebook, Snapchat, whatever it is you're choosing to use, make sure that it's professional and it's not going to do anything to damage your reputation. Because keep in mind, when employers you send in your application, an employer is looking up, background information. One of the first things they're going to do is go to your social media, type in your name, and they're going to do a background check on you. So if you're doing things that are not professional or portraying you in the best light, chances are you're not going to get far in that interview. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point about privacy settings too. Understanding those as a person and there is a lot of things that we all do very on a public level that we don't realize that gets shared on a public level. And I think particularly our students and the world that they live in is such a different world than even we live, we grew up in with smartphones and everything. There are pictures of a lot of things out there. So yes, and from our parents' perspective too, they did not grow up in that world as well. So I think that's a really great point of, I think students also need to understand who our employers are and, what generation they come from as well, to understand maybe those differences as well. And understanding that. Eli, I think so that kind of segues into, I know for some of our families, that first job is a lot of times kind of almost a family decision. If a student's got a few different opportunities, they might go to their family. And I know sometimes not always employers understand that. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of that generational difference and how students can kind of help their employers understand that their family is part of their relationships and part of that now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm from that weird age of kind of in between. I'm, an early 90s kid. So I remember growing up without internet. And then I remember when we first got internet, it was the dial up and then all the way through. And then most of my teenage years, I had Facebook. So, it's kind of that weird in between. And so it really depends on the employers. I think employers are slowly starting to understand and to get where we are, especially there are a lot of employers who specifically recruit college students. And those employers are a little bit more understanding. Those, all the ones we have on HandShake, they came specifically to us to recruit college students. And so they're a little more understanding, a little more, they kind of get where you're at because they just know there's a big generational divide, probably bigger than there really ever has been because things are changing at such a rapid pace nowadays. I mean, like I said, I grew up with Facebook. Well, if you ask me to get on any other social medias, I've never even seen a TikTok. I don't know. Things are just moving that quickly. So, you really just have to pay attention and look at what employers you are applying to. You know, if it's an old family firm somewhere that's ran by, you know, the same 70-year-old man who started it way back when, and it's only been within, you know, his family. Well, they might be a little bit more old school with the way they like to approach things. Whereas if you approach, you know, if you go to a new dynamic place, like yesterday I talked to a marketing firm that does, you know, their entire job social media, and the owner and founder is in her early 30s, should be a lot more understanding, a lot more flexible, just because of the way the generations are. So one thing we always have to look at is just researching the companies you're applying for. That helps from the interviews to getting started with the companies and everything in between. So when you see an open opportunity, research the company backwards and forwards and know exactly what you're getting into, just like the company will be researching you backwards and forward, and hopefully know what they're getting into as far as who they're hiring. It needs to be a mutual relationship. It can't just be one person likes you, but you don't like them. It has to be, you know, an exchange of agreement saying, all right, let's do this.
That's a really fabulous point. It should be mutual. Both sides should be happy with the decision to bring on the other. So do you, so another question we have too is, so for those parents out there who might have a graduating senior or
I think you're breaking in
soon to be graduating. Sorry. What can they do in the next few years to get themselves ready?
Yeah, so I'd like to share my screen real quick, because on our career services website, we have a lot of handy tools for students to use. And so one thing we have is a career plan. And it's broken down pretty easy for students to look at and follow. Cortez, you want to walk through this real quick and just kind of, because I know you helped build this up a little bit. You did. Cortez, you're muted.
Okay, so this career plan is just, you know, when you look at the different titles here, and it kind of goes into what I was speaking on earlier as far as understanding the why. So, you know, discover, so you're going to plan it, you know, design, you're going to build it, you know, do, go back down to it. You're going to work it, and then do, you're going to live it. So basically, before you're going into these, you know, meetings with advisors, have an understanding as to why you're choosing a certain major, with also being realistic. It may change 2 to 3 times, and that's okay. You may get to that senior, you know, just as Lindsay spoke about earlier, some of the benefits of doing an internship is to find out if things are a good fit for you, right? So building a career plan, basically it puts everything out in writing for you. Okay, so how I would advise you as a student coming in as a freshman, you should know exactly which classes you're going to take each semester. You should also have what type of grades you realistically are going to strive for, and have that next to those classes. Once you write things down, statistics show that you have a far better chance of reaching those goals if you write them down and you live it, which is the last thing that they're showing here. So again, write down the classes that you're going to take, however many hours, so you can follow that plan, and to make sure that the goal is to graduate on time. Now, if you get off track, you know, that's not the time to give up or to beat yourself up, or you know, things like that, because we also understand that life happens. You know, who planned for COVID, right? So things happen, but you still have to have that backup plan B, that backup plan C, and sometimes that backup plan D, just to make sure that you are obtaining your goals and aspirations.
Yeah, one saying I always like is, you can't change your past, but you can start where you are and change your future.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. If things go off track, well, that's okay. You can't change what happened before, but you can change what happens next.
Absolutely. And then when you think about it, let's be honest and ask how many students actually have a career plan, coming in. I don't think many take the time to actually write that down and to just stick by it semester by semester. But what are the percentages of things that would change if the majority of our students did do that, or if our office promoted those type of things? I think we would see a great difference in outcomes. Some of the things that we measure, graduation rates would rise. But that's my personal belief.
I think those are great points. Particularly at you having that plan when you come in, but also understanding that may change as you go along and as you learn. I know one of my favorite parts of orientation was always the question would be asked to the parents who come to orientation is, how many of you knew at 18 what you wanted to do for your career for the rest of your life? And most of them do not raise their hand. It's a very small percentage, and it's usually people who picked very particular things that they wanted to do. And so I think that's a great point to help your student make a plan, but also know that it may change along the way and that's okay. But if they have that goal in mind to get where they want to go after graduation, that's the most important part of it, so that they're set up for success.
And let me add this, if I may. Think about the reasons why you want to change your major. Is the reason valid? You have to ask yourself that. If you are an engineering student and you know that you've done the research and the statistics show you the demand of those type of careers, but you hit a hump or you hit a bad spot and you're, kind of emotional about it and you're thinking, well, I don't like this, I don't want to do it. Is that reason valid enough for you to stop? And also, have you thought about how far off from your goal of graduating will that throw you off if you do change your major? So these are some things that I challenge and I encourage students to think about as well before they change their major.
Yeah, it's such an important thing for our students to understand those changes and what they can do for their major and that timeline to graduate as well. Definitely. So to kind of wrap us up, I would love to hear from both of you on this one. What are kind of your last pieces of advice for parents who really kind of want to help their students through this journey, or their students struggling a little bit, or anything like that? Any last pieces of advice? Eli, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I guess the first thing you can do is keep yourself informed, so that way your student becomes informed. Students are all the time bombarded with information from come see this, come do this. I mean, that's the point of social media. That's the point of any sort of marketing, is try to grab your attention. Well, their attention is grabbed 1,000 different ways. So you can help kind of focus their attention on the things that will be most helpful, most important. We have different skills, different platforms, different events for students to come to. We have, for instance, I'll show you quickly the HandShake platform. Through here, I didn't mean to highlight that. This is where we take care of everything. This is where we have jobs, for instance. Our jobs are posted daily. I mean, today alone, I've probably approved 150 positions for our students to apply for. Right now, we have 6.5 thousand jobs available for students to apply for. We also regularly host events for students to come and learn more about different careers, and also employers can host events. For instance, we have FedEx coming to campus, and they're having a women in leadership career readiness sessions available for them. So all of our different events are listed through here to kind of help focus on it. And it's also where you can go talk to your career specialist, or you upload your resume through document uploads. And then once you upload your resume, it will actually help automate completing your profile. Kind of just speeds up the process, that makes life easy. So I guess my biggest piece of advice said, keep yourself informed, help focus the students' attention, but don't control their decisions. Since I worked in admissions and orientation, there's a lot of sayings about helicopter parents and lawnmower parents. Lawnmower parents just mows everything out in front of them. If you make decisions for the students, it's not their life they're living, it's your life. But instead, you can help them out, help them stay focused on what opportunities are out there and help them decide what's the best opportunities for them.
Cortez, what would be your piece of advice? And then we also got another question about a high school student. So high school senior coming in that career plan that you mentioned, should they make that kind of solo, or would you advise they do that with their academic advisor as well, or a career specialist in career services?
Well, if it's an academic plan, you're going to meet with your academic advisor, because there are the people that are specialized in that specific area. If it's a career plan, then you're going to reach out to your career specialist. Depending on your community or major, when you log on to your HandShake platform, it's going to automatically route you to your career specialist. In case you're wondering, well, how do I know who my career specialist is? We've already done that work, and the software will automatically route you to that specialist. As far as my advice to parents, I would say, and a lot of great points that Eli mentioned, understand that this is an emotional and a physical and a very rigorous journey for your student, for your child. And once they're on campus, whether it's online or on campus, they're going to experience so many different things. But the great thing about the University of Memphis is that we have so many different resources that are available to be a solution to some of those issues that students are having, whether it's depression, food shortages, support groups, if they're having academic issues. There are so many resources that I would encourage you to become familiar with, so that you can refer your student to those resources for additional help. Know that career services is not a one-time visit. This is something that we encourage you guys to do continually, because the more you meet with your career services or career specialists, the better off you'll be as far as developing your professional skills and being more prepared for the workforce. My last piece of advice is just to, figure out those times when your child is, venting to you, or if they're frustrated or they're trying to give up. Figure out those times when it's called for you to say something and give advice, or if it's just time for you to listen to what they're saying. Because I think that's a difference in how we treat people. Sometimes people just want you to listen and they want to get things off their chest. And then a lot of times they say so many things that they figured out within that moment of venting. And then sometimes it calls for you to give that advice from a parental standpoint. So again, I hope that all of this information has been helpful. I really appreciate Rachel and Lindsay for inviting Eli and I to come out and speak. This was so much fun. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our offices.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I love the advice that you've given to our parents to kind of help their students, not only with their career, but I think life in general, working with their student too. Hopefully we will all be back in person and can see you, and we'll host you in our office again for another one of these in the next year as well. So we really appreciate you being here and all the work you do for our students and for our parents. So thank you so much. And parents, we will put all of the links below and in our notes. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or to the Career Services Office, and we'll have that information for you. So thank you so much, and join us in another